step into the lab, lights hum like a starship dock. Pine logs stacked like data banks in a cube block. I calibrate climates while the timeline bends, writing fungal code loops only mycelium sends. I navigate ecosystems with instinctive precision. Every egg played a portal to a parallel vision. Mentorship spin up like reactors at dawn. You want a culture revolution, then you better respond. We fracture the boundaries of the natural order, make Reishi bloom sideways like a space-time border. I'm an Appalachian alchemist, wild ridge born, with a druid's intuition and a mind full of spores.
Keep spawning culture.
We're the network underfoot, the unseen sculpture.
Keep spawning culture.
Hello. My computer's froze. Hooray! Well, I don't know if y'all can hear me, see me. Computer, why have you frozen? Oh, it just went black. And sometimes when it does that, it resets itself. It's now telling me I have no signal. Hooray! What is going on? Guys, I'm having some technical difficulties. Okay. How about now? I feel like it's working. Everything shows that it's working. That has been a mess. All good. Okay, we're good. We're live. What am I doing? Who am I? Where am I going? Okay, so welcome, y'all. Glad it worked. Hopefully, the people that showed up and then abandoned us will come back. But apparently, my computer really, really, really hates having. Uh, uh, all right, guys. So we got that done. We have an unexpected visitor coming in, so it'll be all right. Well, no, it'll be okay. Um, Party too much New Year's? No. So apparently my computer really hates having my video editor because I was supposed to have a video out this morning and it didn't go out this morning. It's going out tomorrow morning. And I was working on that up until we started the stream. And then when we started the stream, I ended up having to, I just left it open. I didn't have to, I just left it open. And it apparently really hates streaming and recording and all that stuff at the same time. So I had to figure that out. Hopefully I not destroy my video card. So, all right, we're here. We're all good. You guys can hear me. You can see me. I can see and hear you. That's actually incorrect. You coming up here, bud? Yeah, you come on. Come on. There you go. Alrighty. Yeah, all right. Welcome home, Hazel. So, wait, what now? Gemini likes you, by the way. I asked how to fold bags, and it recommended to watch your video. It called you an industry pro alongside Myers Mushrooms. Oh, I appreciate that. That sounds really, really good. We worked hard for that. So actually, we had our first time. Ben came over and said that they sold a stir plate, and when they talked to the guy about the stir plate, he said that I think it was ChatGPT recommended it to him, even though he has nothing to do with mushrooms. It recommended the stir plate to him, and we don't know why. We don't know if it's because I like them and I've done videos on them, or if it has heard about them in other sources, or what. But yeah, apparently it starts to recommend people now, which I'm happy with. Yeah, the content out there hopefully positions me in a way that the AIs like, since people are now using that a lot more as search engines. And well, I guess even Google now is powered by Gemini. So Ginger Cat, yeah, Ginger Cat, he's the best one. Is actually had a little sad day. I think it was it was the day before yesterday. His mama got ran over, so he's been extra affectionate. But yeah, ginger cats. It actually makes me really happy because I always wanted a ginger cat ever since I was a kid, and my uncle said I could have his cat, Garfield. And then when my uncle died, I couldn't get my cat from him, and so I was like, "Oh man, I really want a ginger cat now." They all share one brain cell. Yeah, I believe it. He's a dummy. He's a sweet dummy, but he's still a dummy. But he's also one of the rat patrol, keeps the mice down. Ben next door has a storehouse full of mushroom substrates and stuff, and mice like that stuff. And then we have the field out back and the forest to the side and the creek right down the road. So we ended up, we've had traps, and I don't like poisons. I don't like the sticky traps, but yeah, about the best thing that we have found for keeping mice away is the cats. But we had a terrier for a while. I've got 3 of them, 3 ginger cats. It's funny. Which is funny because like none of the others are even close really to this pattern. The dad's almost solid black. He's got a little bit of white on him, but anyways, the go back to the rat traps real quick. The industrial ones for like co-ops and stuff, those work pretty decent. I've seen that they've installed them in over there, but yeah, the mice can be quite a problem on a mushroom farm or any kind of farm. Honestly, there's a guy named Jay Reed and his Mongrel Horde on Facebook, and I don't really know much anything about him except that he has a bunch of terriers, and that's what I was about to. He's got a bunch of terriers that will that they actually go and break up rats' nests on farms and things like that, and they use the terriers to catch the rats, and that way no poisons are used or anything like that, and they can dismantle the nests and etc. So. Well, hopefully you guys have some stuff to talk about this evening. I know I have a little bit, not a ton. I'm still more thinking about my video that I'm trying to edit. But neighbor next door, what's up, Claire? Neighbor next door hates any animal in our yard. We have 5 to 9 ferals, no live mice around. Yeah, I mean, well, that is the thing, right? Ben doesn't necessarily like the cats over there, just because it's just another animal. We've had our cats; they'll leave their bay doors open to let the trucks come and go, right? And as they do, I guess one of the cats will slip inside. Hey, Charles. And then they have the cat, when they close the bay door, they'll get locked in like all night long. So. But I have a few videos I need to upload. Let's see. Not a whole lot, but we have. Well, I gotta find the right folder. Stop. Hopefully, some new. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. I'm trying to pull up I can't remember where my. There it is. Bam. I had to find some footage, and I have it scattered throughout various folders. So I got some 50 milliliter flat bottom centrifuge tubes getting ready to pour agar for slants. Nice. That's what we do. We do the 50 milliliter tubes, and then we just fill with a little sawdust, typically in the bottom, agar in the over top of it. You can sterilize inside the tubes, but I find it's actually better just to pour them all sterilized already, especially since the centrifuge tubes are oftentimes sterilized. That's his perch. He likes to sit there. But yeah, we have a video we're working on to try to drop tomorrow morning. And then I have, which is kind of basically titled the same thing as this live stream. And then we have just kind of our reasonings on why we go over. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm having a hard time talking and looking for this stuff at the same time. A new sponsor today, and then we have. Oh man, I'm having a hard time focusing. As to the slants, you can get them pre-poured, almost as cheap sometimes. Or I wonder if Tip of the Cap is still doing them. Let's find out real quick, because tubes are. Tubes are fun, but sometimes it can be almost as cheap to buy them pre-poured. That's not what I was going for. Tip of the Cap mushrooms. Okay, let's go. All right, he's taking a break. Well, dang it. I was going to say that's one of the best places to get pre-pours. I make mine now. But do I still have a discount for Cell Treat? Yeah, that's here, I'll put it in the comments. It's just oh, you know what? I think that ended December 31st. I've not reached out to get a new one. But I'll tell you what, Steven, it's actually cheaper, I found out after talking to a couple people, and this cuts me out entirely, but that's okay because it's better for you guys to get the cheaper stuff. Is you can go and get Cell Treat on Amazon for even cheaper than my 25% off code will get you. Apparently, they just sell stuff on Amazon that much more cheaply. It's the same products that they have. It's the same products you can get on their website. It's just, let's see what it's if on the code that I used to have, which was Mossy 2025, and maybe it still works. I don't know, but it would save you 25%. It gives me only a 5% kickback. So I wasn't actually making much off Cell Treat. Anyways, and so it doesn't, it doesn't cut me out really to have you grab that there. It'll actually, and it should hopefully be even, easier for you because you'll be able to buy more. Sorry, silence on my phone because I forgot to. I'm all over the place today. I did not sleep well, so you're very welcome. Yes, Steve, you're very, very welcome. I hope it does you some good. You can see Samantha's started taking the Christmas tree down. Haven't got it fully down yet, though. We will have it soon, I hope. Soon. The video I'm working on right now is basically, it's, why we picked mushrooms to start with and what we're doing. Why they're kind of like the leverage point, the base of everything that we do. And so I've got some stuff of the winter garden. It's not a super heavy how-to video, and those are usually the videos that get me the most attention anyways. So those are oftentimes the better ones for me to do. But you go out, it's actually easier to see the soil and how beautiful and dark it is and stuff on the video in the wintertime, because you don't have leaves blocking stuff up and all kinds of things. In fact, I should have I have a plant that I pulled, and I can show you guys kind of share screen. So there we go. You guys can see that. It's a lot easier to be able to see this stuff because I don't mind. A, this is a weed, and B, I don't mind ripping stuff up in the wintertime because it's not really growing and stuff anymore. Though we're having an incredibly, weirdly mild winter. I don't know. I didn't hear anything. I guess go ahead and turn it on now. You're right, that's Brody. Hey, but basically, you should be able to just hit power. You'll see there'll be a light, and it'll go down a stop, and it'll say it'll if it's working, the heating will have a green light. Okay, it's my employees, also known as children. Come here. You awful thing. There you go. But yeah, the garden is really nice. It's I think might turn it into a market garden this year. We might actually start selling the plants and the produce and everything else that we've been wanting to sell. Speaking of selling, I've got classes listed. Samantha and I both got classes listed. And we have the class pass up. So for anyone who wants to buy a year's worth of classes and have it save you 66% on the year, that is up as the class pass. And then we have first class of the year is the Saturday. It's the mushroom cultivation basics. And so we'll have that available, or it's already available. Actually, we had it listed, and then we didn't realize that we'd listed it out of stock on everything somehow. Even though we put stock in, there was another button we were supposed to unclick. And so for like 4 days, I didn't sell any classes, and I was like, what is going on? And then I realized it's because we forgot to put it in stock. So also, don't be afraid to put any questions in. If you guys don't have questions, this will be a short stream because this is the Q&A day. This is the day that I am here available for you all to answer any and all questions that you guys have. So, and I'm not going to go too hard into mushrooms as the foundation of everything since I'll have that video. Basis is just that they kind of start everything, they unlock everything, they make it all available for us, and they started off with a valuable crop right off the get-go. And so the video I've been working on is kind of about that. I need to tighten it up. The next 2 or 3 videos I'm going to work on tightening up the script, my ramblings, because I tend to go off the cuff. I do like a bullet point style setup and then just kind of riff, and sometimes that makes me make the same argument 2 or 3 times. And that doesn't really become evident until I start trying to edit the video down. So I still got to get back in the swing of things on that. But I do want to make sure I at least get the videos up and out. He's just such a cute meow meow. Yep.
Rambling about how you ramble?
I'm rambling about how I ramble. Such a cute meow meow. And then it's
Cute meow meow.
yep. He's an all right one. He's following you. Do you have any tips on how to time a farm for production for farmers markets? I assume that you have like it on a certain day. Like I'm assuming that you have like one day is what I'm trying to say, where instead of having like 4 or 5 different markets, because that's usually a lot easier to time because you've got a little bit that you're selling every day kind of thing. So if you're talking about like a weekend market and you're trying to time it for that, there's not a lot that you can do exactly with a lot of these mushrooms that we grow. The main thing that's helpful is to have a few restaurants or something that'll take something early in the week and then leave you your stuff at the end of the week. If you pick a lot younger, things will have better shelf lives in the fridge. So there's some of that. But you have a dual strategy that Samantha and I used to do, which was you would plant on like Monday, Thursday, right? You would cut your however many blocks you wanted to fruit or to put into fruiting that week. You could do some Monday, some Friday, and that kind of has them popping at different times. And sometimes that's helpful. Is the market the only place you've got? And if that's the case, then the most important thing will be when you harvest. You'll come in Fridays and you'll just harvest everything down to about the pins, right? We're Saturday morning if you harvest before, but I always like to do it the night before. And then, so you come in, you pick everything down to the pins, you leave just the tiniest little pins, and then you can kind of, I guess if you're only selling on Saturday, you don't want to leave those pins. You want to reset everything. But the idea would just be the one day you're going to have to, or 1 week you're going to have to allow things to get a little too far, and then you could just pick everything and reset it every Friday. And that way, as you're putting things in, you can count on that if you reset it, you're going to get everything in the averages. So even if you lose a little bit in the initial transition. So you'll come in Friday, you pick everything, you throw it all in the boxes for sale. You go to the market the next day, you sell as much as you can, you dry the rest, you can dry pins, and then you have from that, you know, you can make powders. I mean, pins make wonderful powder. They're just dense little mycelial nuggets. But the next week when you come in, where you've reset everything, you have hopefully it coming in on time, on the timing that you want. You can about count on the first flush, and this is true for, it's like an average kind of thing. This is not true for every strain, but you're going to have about 7 to 10 days from when you put it in the grow room at a room temperature kind of setup with most of your aggressive oysters. The most aggressive ones will probably fully form in 7 days. Some slower oyster strains won't fruit for 10 days. So it's actually a really hard thing to time your mushrooms to your markets. The best thing to do is to try to have an early in the week outlet and a late in the week outlet. And as you're building sales channels, you know, try to divvy them up between 2 different delivery days, market day, whatever. You heading out? I love you. Tell Lily I love her. See you tomorrow. So yeah, that's kind of my advice on that, is just that it's kind of hard. Please, related to your experience on green mushroom, is mushroom spawn stronger than green mold? Oftentimes, but not always. So I'm going to make some assumptions here, but I'm assuming that you have like fruiting blocks where there is your spawn is growing, and then you have green growing other places in the bag. I will say, as long as you see good, strong growth of the mycelium, then a lot of times, yeah, it might take a week longer, but the bags will oftentimes still grow in with that mycelium, and it'll basically eat up all that green, is what it looks like. And I've had blocks do it, and even I've noticed the trend where the blocks that will do that will sometimes grow a little better. Now, that said, they won't always eat it, so it's best to just leave, like, quarantine those blocks so they don't spread to other places in the incubation, and then probably increase your cook time, because the reason for the sterility is not necessarily it's the highest yields, because like I said, I've noticed with a little bit of contamination, it's almost like it fruits better on the first flush, but we want that reliability. So that's definitely something I would do, is increase my cook time, but I would still keep those blocks as long as I saw good, healthy mycelium growing. So, yep, Saturdays. Okay, yeah. If do you have any outlets like Monday or Tuesday? Maybe, Tuesday would probably be the best. Tuesday and Saturday. That's good. That's a good breakup of the week. Green, would you consider doing online courses for the actual growing of the strains you sell? I wouldn't do courses on that. I want to do better descriptions. And for that, I need better testing. And I need other people's testing, not just mine, right? So I need to make sure that it is standard for others as well. Tell you what, guys, we're going to let you go to the new sponsor real quick. And I'll be right back. Word from our sponsor. It's me. I'm the sponsor again. I just want to let you guys know that we are now doing online classes, online mentorships for you. It has been requested, and we are now offering that. Our first one of 2026 season is January 10th. That's this weekend. So you only have a couple of days to grab that class up. It starts at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, January 10th. We're going to have one class per month. There'll be even some pop-up classes, and we even have a class pass where if you want to take every class we do this year, it's going to save you like 66%. So if you grab that class pass, it gets you every class we did previously to you buying it this year. It basically just gets you the whole year, okay? So that's really exciting. I'm really excited to come up and teach this class in the next couple of days about mushroom cultivation basics. And we will have another mushroom cultivation basics class in July, I think. You'll check it. Check the website. It's on mossycreekmushrooms.com under the Learn tab. There's the online mentorships. Check it out. Look forward to seeing y'all there. Keep spawning culture, y'all. Alrighty. It was me. I should not. I actually did that way earlier than I wanted to, but should not have drank a full half-gallon of water right before the stream. Tyler Ford. Look at that little fishy. I just found your channel. Great stuff. If you had to start a mushroom business from scratch in 2026, is there a certain area you would focus on or do differently? So I'm actually doing a video for next week's release that is basically just a little bit about why I see mushroom farms fail. So some of that stuff would have been nice to know. Or really, it's about things I wish I knew before getting into the mushroom business. So I would have focused more on the boring stuff. I would have focused more on the boring business side of things. And even though mushrooms are the thing that we're all passionate about, recognize that most of the businesses fail for very boring reasons. You know, not doing your analysis is right, or your fact checking a lot of different things, you know, showing up every day to do the disciplined thing. So just because, you know, mushrooms have done a lot of good for me, but they have also benefited from the fact that I have changed over the years. So that kind of thing, that's the things I wish I knew about, right? Which is that a mushroom business is still a business. So it's not just about growing good mushrooms. In fact, some of the most successful people you'll see in this trade are not people that grow the best mushrooms. They're the ones that know how to do the business side, the marketing side, getting themselves out there, that kind of thing. I am not so great at marketing. I'm kind of terrible at it. So, and I have, back in the past, I was an ill-disciplined person, and it's taken a long time to become a disciplined person. Ask your mother, but it's okay with me. I think that that's probably the biggest things. Making good personal choices, and boring ones. I know that sometimes they're really boring. There is some excitement about this, which is I do think that when you start a business, the business ought to provide for you, and becoming a person who is in charge of a whole new organism, a new business in and of itself, you are committing to steering the ship. You're committing to be the person making the decisions and having the responsibility for that. And that, I don't want that to discourage anyone, because the benefits that come with that are, once you get out of being an employee and starting employing yourself and others, it becomes really important to do self-care, because you don't want to burn out. You're like the one person who can't afford to burn out, and the position that is most likely to burn out. So take vacations, you know, and do stuff with your family, that kind of thing. You have to have some sort of healthy ways of doing security or protection against burnout. You have to, it's just a different position is what it is. You take on all of the risk management, right? So that's kind of what I wish I knew, is that it would be full of boring things still. That leaving one job and getting into a job I'm passionate about doesn't take away the need for the boring things. In fact, it increases the need for the boring things. So you get both extremes. So, Tyler, I hope that answers your question. I hope it's not discouraging either, because, again, it's been the best thing in the world for me. So mushrooms are mushrooms are hard, but they're not hard. And what I mean by that is, I don't think the mushroom work is actually all that difficult. It is, sometimes it's difficult to make yourself show up every day do the same thing every day. Your life becomes very cyclical, but it's kind of cool because it repositions you back into a cyclical lifestyle, except that it's just now a week kind of thing. And I know we have that with like our 9 to 5s or things like that. A lot of times our weeks repeat, but now you're the driving force behind that, and it makes you kind of think about that. And so you have like seasons in a week as you program your farm work out, and you got to be disciplined, but then you get a lot of good rewards from that. And I do encourage people, like at this point, when you start selling to restaurants and they do farm appreciation dinners and they want to have you out, do it. Oh my goodness, do it. Take the time to enjoy all those rewards. They're fantastic. And then turn around and do the discipline thing, right? Do the discipline thing, generate excess and then store. Store that up, build a savings account, do all the boring, proper things. And then eventually you'll learn an appreciation and go, oh, infrastructure and all that stuff's actually really sexy stuff. So rambly. I'm very rambly today. I'll tell you guys that right now. I've been staring at a computer screen for far too long, and it's made me rambly. Hey, Sports, welcome. Hey, I've got a bag of lion's mane, heat-tolerant strain, only 5 days old, already trying to pin on top. What to do? Well, if it's just little pins, a lot of times you can just run it. If it's larger fruits, in the bag, you can grab those larger fruits and loosen them up, open the bag, pour those out. You can even then reseal it, shake your bag up and bust it up, or you can just bust it up without resealing it. Just being very, very careful in your flow hood, and then you can use the spawn. So fruits in like the little pins are not ideal for spawn by any means, but lion's mane does that so quickly that a lot of times you have to work with less than, like I've had bags that I've had to ship for spawn that had tiny little fruit start, and sometimes that's just what you have to do. There are ways to help it. One is to take the air out of the bag. That'll help it. Another question about percentage of production for king oyster and oyster mushroom. Question about percentage of production for king oyster and oyster mushroom. What do you mean the percentage of production for, like how much should you grow of each? That's not a question I can answer. The market will answer that one. So king oysters take about a week longer overall. It's not really a big deal because it ends up being about the same labor. So, king oysters you can oftentimes sell for a little bit more, and they tend to be about as productive for oyster mushrooms. So I would say grow as much king oyster until you can't sell it, basically. Grow and sell king oyster for $1 or $2 more a pound than the oyster mushrooms. And you'll find that you're going to have a far better profit margin focusing on the kings. But you'll find that you'll probably sell more of the regular oysters. You're very welcome. Not at the moment, just trying to plan it out a bit in my head. For the markets, gotcha. It takes a little bit of planning, but a lot of times experience is just gonna, whatever you plan is probably not going to be good enough. So, not saying not to plan, but plan, and then plan again, and then plan again, and plan again, and plan again, and then go, okay, when I get there, I'll pick one of these plans. Right now, the biggest thing early on is to keep maximum optionality. Do not commit to any path that locks you and takes away options. That's the most important thing in the beginning, is to go, every choice I needs to lead to more and more options, not fewer and fewer options. And that's not always easy to figure out if this decision is going to do that or not. You're very welcome, Tyler. I hope it was useful. Misty Mountain, Caden's on here. Playing with mushrooms in your free time as a hobby is so much fun. When it takes up all your time and your life is mainly mushroom focused, it can get a bit boring. Boring is the wrong word, more like tiresome. Yes, that is, and that's why breaks are so important. Like, if you did that with anything, though, it's not just mushrooms, that's anything. I know a lot of people that got into plant-based businesses and fish-based businesses, and playing around with that stuff in their free time was the best thing in their lives. And then they had about a year or two, like somewhere down the road when they turned it into a business, that they resented it. And there was a point in my life where I started to resent mushrooms. It wasn't a very long time, but I definitely resented it and was like, oh yeah, maybe I should take a break from this. For like, maybe I should go take the weekend and go do this thing that I want to do that isn't just mushrooms, because I was a person who bounced from one thing to another and then landed on mushrooms. And while that is great, it is nice to still be able to bounce a little bit. Just have to do it in my free time. It's bulk sub, not spawn. That's is it the king oyster question? Lion's Mane. I've got a bag of lion's mane, heat tolerant strain, only 5 days old. Already trying to bag of lion's mane. So it's bulk. Okay, so if it's just tiny little things, go ahead and cut it where you want it, your slit where you want it to fruit, and then press the air out and get it to it as early as possible. And then just go ahead and fruit it. Fruit it as quick as you can. So I fruit lion's mane bags. They will still look like sawdust. When I cut them, sawdust will literally fall out of the bag. I do not wait around for that stuff typically. Now that said, if it starts fruiting, I have absolutely fruited blocks that have fruits in them, but it is a little bit more likely that those little fruits, instead of being reabsorbed, might sicken and then die off and then sicken and then start to rot, and that's not going to be good for your block. But it's not like a huge percentage, especially if you catch it early. Sorry, I meant percentage from substrate. For example, if you have 100 kilograms of substrate. Oh, like how much you get for one or the other? In my experience, a good king oyster strain and a good oyster strain should be about the same amount of weight. It'll just depend on, a lot of it will be genetic dependent, but a lot of it will also be environmental dependent. If you give it too much fruiting surface area, then you'll tend to have many more mushrooms that are smaller. And this is true for the kings and the oysters. And then if you want fewer larger mushroom caps or something like that, you make a smaller hole. And that's going to really depend on a lot of different factors. I mean, that's a lot of different things. But the general rule is, if I'm expecting a pound of mushrooms from a block, let's say I've got a 5-pound block and I expect to get 1 pound of mushrooms off of it. That 1 pound of mushrooms could be one hole where I get, if I do one little hole, I'll get a cluster that'll form right there, and it'll be a 1 pound mushroom cluster. If I do 2 holes, I'll now hopefully, if conditions are correct, have 2 half-pound clusters. And then if you do 4 holes, you'll have 4 quarter-pound clusters, right? And then as far as between the species, those two, as like I said, are basically about the same. King oysters tend to be the better money. But if you're asking how much to expect for either one, based on 100 kilograms of substrate, 100 kilograms of substrate would be 220 pounds, right? So, because it's just 2.2, right? 2.2 pounds per kilogram. So, off a 10-pound block, I expect to get 2 pounds of mushrooms. So, what is that? That's 1/5 of the weight. Yeah, 1 pound for about a 5-pound. So, if you have 220, you divide that by 5. 40. Oh, wait, that's not right. No, that is right. That is right. 220 pounds divided by 5, so that you have a 1/5. 1/5 of that would be 44 pounds. So you'd expect to get 44 pounds. So 88 10-pound blocks would only be 880 pounds. Or would be 880 pounds. And off that, I would expect to get – right? 88 blocks would be, yeah, okay. 44 is the correct. So what's 44 times 2.2? Or no, 44 divided by 2.2. Be about 20 kilos. And I should have known that from the very beginning when he said 100, and I realized it was a fifth. I really went the long way around on that, guys. Again, I had a mathematical learning disability growing up. You can't trust my math, so do your own math. But it's about a fifth. Where am I? What's up, Andrew? Oh, it's Colin. I'm about to start some spawn for log inoculating with the log cultivation kit I received from you. Should I do the 350 mix or the straight sawdust spawn? I mean, you can go straight sawdust if you're going to logs. You don't have to put it like what you're talking about there. Will take it a little bit easier if you're going liquid culture, but let's say if you've got spawn, you're going spawn to spawn, you can absolutely go from any sort of spawn really to the sawdust spawn, and that'll be good. But yeah, I would just, if I'm going to logs, I would just do straight sawdust spawn. You're telling about your ADHD, dude. Yeah, I mean, I wear my ADHD on my sleeve. If I can remember my sleeve. You're very welcome. What was your first successful mushroom harvest? So, I mean, it kind of depends on what you're defining by mushroom harvest, but since you left that open to interpretation, my very first mushrooms I ever grew, period. I found the picture back actually on was it Facebook? I think it was Facebook. Showed me like, oh, this many years ago, and it was like the first mushrooms I'd ever grown from my own substrate. And it was where I had bought a kit from Fungi Perfecti. This was like, was this 08, I think? I think it was 08. Yeah. Yeah, it was 08. So 2008, bought a kit from Fungi Perfecti, and then I fruited it. So I had that flush, and that flush looked pretty good. And then I was like, oh, well, I can just take this block that's got, mold and stuff on it. I had no idea what I was really, I mean, I had a little bit of an idea, but not much. And I mean, it didn't have like a visible mold, but I knew it was open to contamination and stuff. I just took that kit and I broke it up and I put it in a bunch of straw I had pasteurized on the stove. And I took all that straw and had stuffed it into 10-gallon aquariums. So I just did one pot at a time and stuffing a little bit of spawn, which was a kit that had already been opened and fruited, so not clean, and just kept layering it and then pulled that stuff out and put it on a plate and took the shelves, where you've got the plastic shelves with the tube uprights, the shelves that just pop on top of them. I saran wrapped one of those shelves and then cut a little door in it and then put that plate in there and let the mushrooms grow. And they had no air exchange, no humidity control. So the humidity stayed plenty wet because it had no air exchange. But my mushrooms had tiny, tiny little caps and the long stems. Like they were really searching. And I was so proud of those mushrooms. And I should have been proud because that was my first one. But it was definitely like, oh, I'm so proud of this. And now I look back at that and I'm like, what was I thinking? What in the world? But I was thinking the same thing everybody thinks when they grow for the first time. So an actual break is good for anything. I agree 100%. And it's not just good for the employer situation. I think it's good for the employees and everyone else as well. I just think there's a reason why, and there's a lot of, I know, political discussion that people would want to have about this, and I'm not going to get into any of that, but there's a reason why a lot of executives and people at the top end up spending so much time and things really getting into vacations or breaks or getting to go to enjoy some of the finer things. And it's, there's a lot of stress that comes in owning a business. When you think about how stressed you get as an employee, now add the responsibility of making sure that every other one of those employees eats and that their kids eat is now on top of you, and the government's after you, and so, after your money and blah blah blah, so on and so on. So it's especially good. Maybe not especially good. It's good for both, but I think that being an owner and taking on all that responsibility and stress is means that you need it more frequently. I think I'll grow mainly lion's mane since I really like the taste. I may try king oysters also. Kings I find are easy in the wintertime and way more difficult for me in the spring and summer. And lion's mane is good for me pretty much all year long. And yeah, I'm with you. Like, I've considered just going entirely lion's mane. Like, if I wanted right now to start up a farm and really roll in the cash, lion's mane is what I'd be doing right now. Lion's mane would be the mushroom I would pick. I found some oyster mushrooms growing down at the river last week. Crazy weather this year in the Pacific Northwest. I took tissue clone, cardboard packed around the stems, cat bits, and a spore streak on agar. Nice. That is exactly the way to do it. Shotgun approach will get you the strains much easier than just trying to attempt a clone or, just a single spore print or something like that. Like, it's always best to try to capture different segments. And then you can always throw away, like, if one of them works really, really well, you can always throw the rest away if you want. Or you can keep those for later if you also want. But try to remember, as a bioprospector, we are not trash hoarders. So, get your strain, but don't keep every plate you ever made. It's hard not to sometimes because you're like, oh, well, it feels like a waste. You're going to create a lot of waste. But also, you're going to have to look at the waste is not a bad thing, right? If there wasn't waste being produced out in the world, there would be nothing for mushrooms to eat. So it's just part of the system. Waste is not necessarily a bad thing. But definitely do the shotgun approach. Related to my experience, it's giving 1/3 100 kilograms substrate gives fresh mushrooms. Good. Then that means that you've got either a good strain, good recipe, or good conditions, or all three. Right? If it's more than the 20 kilograms. I also run my numbers conservatively. Anytime I do anything for commercial sake, if I can't make it at the 20 kilograms, right, then it doesn't make sense for me to really do it. And then if I do all my numbers at 20 kilograms, but then I grow 30 kilograms, okay, that's perfectly fine. That means that I am making now that much more profit because I've already paid the bills out of the first bit. So anything over that is bonus profit. And I like being surprised by bonus profit. I do not like being surprised by bonus costs. Bonus costs are the worst kind of bonus. I remember going home to do some plumbing and being told I was weird for being so excited over a wild lion's mane grow on the neighbor's tree. You'll get that a lot. Yeah. There are memes and memes and memes in the mushroom groups where it's literally like a person standing in the corner and being like, me at a party, but no one there wants to talk about mushrooms. That kind of thing. It gets under our skin. And while I came at mushrooms for different reasons than most people did and do. And I mean, some of the same ones or whatever, but I came at it almost at a completely different angle than I see most people come at it. And so I'm a little bit weird. I never started off getting into mushrooms thinking I was going to be a mushroom person, right? I got into mushrooms and I became the mushroom guy that everyone pointed at. But, in me, I'm still like, no, I'm an ecosystem guy. I'm a everything guy. But mushrooms are just the best thing. And what I mean by the best thing is they're fascinating. They're profitable. They are weird, and people stay away from weird, which means that gives me plenty of room to do things, right? It gives me plenty of room to play, but it also weird. If something's a niche product, then it tends to have a high value to it as well. So I came at it from all of those angles that I can create mushroom compost and things like that. And what? Don't know what I'm talking about. you guys going on a bike ride? Okay. I thought you had already left. Okay. Do you need to ask something? Yeah. Yeah, you can hug me over here. You can be on stream. Nobody will mind. But if you don't want to be on stream, then I understand that too and want to respect it. Love you too. The Lion's Veins one that's hard to not get excited about, though. Knowing everything that we know. Knowing everything that we know, like all the things that are coming around, knowing that it's also a rarer mushroom. We know, I don't know, there's just all kinds of stuff that is super exciting about lion's mane already. So you get excited about this niche thing, and then you have a niche within a niche that you get really, really excited about. Hello from the land down under. I want to know fresh to dry ratio for cordyceps mushrooms. That you're going to have to wait on. I don't know that right off the top of my head. I am working on cordyceps right now myself. So, and have a partnership in that. And I do not know I don't know it well enough to know off the top of my head. I probably know it, but I'd have to do some thinking and getting around on some stuff. The craziest mushroom I've ever found locally was an elm that I successfully fruited at 95 degrees Fahrenheit. It loved heat and was huge. I hope you cloned it. I hope you still have it. Like, was it an elm oyster, I assume? And was it an actual elm oyster, or was it what we call elm a lot of times, but is actually just the commercial elm, which is a pleurotus that has elm-like features. Because there's elm A and elm Z, that kind of thing. Hey, Andrew. How's the Hericium Horde Patreon gifts going? It's actually going really well. This right here is Samantha working on Patreon rewards going out. So, this is what Samantha has actually been over here. She stepped outside a little bit ago when we had a friend show up. But she was literally working on printing off labels. We got a lot to get through, so I don't know. I can't tell you exactly what day you'll get your label, like your tracking number. But over this weekend, besides teaching, and then the whole next week, we're pouring into Patreon and getting all of that closed out. And then we'll have a new thing on the website later. We'll do like our own culture club or something like that, or the Mycologium. We'll have a like a Mycologium club or Mycologium I don't know, kind of. I don't know how we're going to structure it yet. We're going to move away from Patreon, is what I'm saying. Which actually reminds me, I'm going to have to. I've got a couple of people that I support, so I'll need to figure out if I want to keep supporting them on Patreon or find some other way to do it. But I am not. I've just been really not having a good time with Patreon. Have you made dual extracts with fresh mushrooms versus dried? I recently discussed this with another grower and planned to experiment. I have done with fresh and I have done with dried, and I prefer fresh. So I prefer fresh, but dried works really well. Dry is actually a lot easier to. I do it in two different ways. I tend to have to render the mushrooms if they're fresh, and then I run them through a cider press to begin with. And that's the first filtration process on down. And then the other side of it is dried. I have to dry, and then I end up pulverizing the mushrooms into powder. Powderizing is better. It saves time. And the powder, gets mixed in pretty well. So, and then I have two different extraction methods that I do. So one that I use with powder versus one that I will use with the fresh mushrooms, as far as like heat treatment, personification, whether I do it with a dual solvent or whether I do it with solo solvents on either one. But my favorite's fresh. 100%. It's the easiest. I will be teaching that in our extract class, by the way, Caden, just FYI. I rarely see CSAs for mushrooms. Is there money to be made with CSAs in this field? I do. I make a little bit with mine. I don't push mine as hard as I could. We were actually just talking to the local newspaper. One of the guys I went to high school with does the advertisement department there. And so we're thinking about advertising our CSA, building it up. We just haven't done it yet. But we have people, most of our customers buy the 6-month package. We sell 6 months of our CSA for $500, something like that. 480, 500, something like that. And that works out really well in their favor, but I still get paid better than restaurant prices. It's not retail by any means, but we've thought about pushing it because the CSA, you have to teach a lot, and the best thing to do is if you can get into another CSA. That's what we found to be the best. That's where I found the best profit, labor, and infrastructural, like everything just coming together. All three of those ended up being balanced correctly. So we were getting about $12 a pound for our mushrooms. We would pay something, I don't remember what the percentage was exactly, of any orders that came through. They would list the stuff on their website. They did all of the handling and administrative stuff. We showed up with boxes of already predetermined amounts of mushrooms, and because they would give us the order like the day before, we would get that order put together the morning of, and then run over to the CSA drop point. And then about once every 6 to 7 weeks, we would drive. So we would have to hang around for a little while, receive the newly packaged mixed orders all together from all the various farms that put in, and then we would drive over to one of the drop points. And mine was typically Sevierville, which is about 40 minutes away. But I also had restaurants I delivered to up there, so I would just go up there, and eventually got to the point where I was starting to do that every time because I didn't mind it. It was just one more stop amongst all the other stops, and I was getting paid $12 a pound instead of $8 a pound for these mushroom orders. So, well, let me take that back. Yeah, because I think they were selling them for 13 or 14 a pound. Or maybe I was getting 11 and we were selling them for 12. And then we were getting 11 kicked back to us, but it's still $3 more than what we would get from the stuff. Teddy, why are you wet? Did he have a bath? He had a bath? Come here, buddy. Teddy. Where'd he go? He's under his towel. He's tried to rub it up against the Christmas tree I saw, and then he went over there and whose jacket that is. Is that my jacket? He was rubbing up all over my jacket. Teddy, I don't want wet dog on my jacket. He smells like coconut. Gave you a thought to get about getting off? Yes, absolutely, I have. Yeah, we're getting off Patreon. I don't know when exactly. I'm still going to run it for another month or two. Even once we start the new thing, what we're going to do is we'll start the new way of doing. I think a mycologium club is a really good way to do it. It might actually be a way for the mycologium to branch off into its own entity, and then be able to do some interesting things with that side of things for sure. But then people can support that entity through like a weekly donation or monthly donation or however you want to do it. We can do it similar, or like a club to where they get something back out of it. I don't really know. There's some things that we got to figure out, but I do want to get off Patreon. And then once we even do figure out what we want to do, it's going to be a month or two before, because what we'll do is we'll run both for a couple of months and then close down the Patreon. Youth for environment. Sir, what the main agri-waste you advise to use for oyster mushroom? I mean, that is entirely dependent on where you are. So that's going to be so specific. The main thing you need is a carbon source and a nitrogen source. That's your two main things. And you need about 4.5 to 5%, we'll say protein, because protein is nitrogen is a protein-bound molecule. So you'll have 4.5 to 5% protein of your total dry weights. So 95% of your, let's say if you have a pound, 0.95 of a pound will be your carbon source, and 0.5%, or sorry, I'm not answering that question well. You want your total dry weights to have 4.5 to 5% of that as protein. You want to use a carbon source as the main body, something like straw, sawdust. Those are really the two main ones. I've seen people use bulrush reeds and palm trimmings. There's peat moss, cocoa core. There's a bunch of different carbon sources. The best thing is going to be, like silage or something like that. The best thing is going to be whatever's close in your area. So then as far as your supplements go, that provides the nitrogen, the protein content, you're going to, again, want to find whatever waste is closest to you. So here in the South, soy is a really good option in the South of the U.S. The rice hulls, I know people that use fish meal. I know people, I've seen people, and I've used dog food once before, not as a crop, just as an experiment. And then I have seen grains used. I've seen cottonseed hulls, oats hulls of grains are usually really, really good. They still tend to be very fibrous and have a good amount of protein in them for that kind of thing. But let's say that, if you're on an island, a lot of times islands will have rice. Rice is going to be the big one. But where I'm at, we have a lot of wheat, oats, soy. So I've been wanting to trial out potato waste, but I haven't done that yet. I'm experimenting with thick air-rated LC straight to fruiting blocks and skipping grain spawn. I do a 50-50 mix of oats to wood at 50% hydration. I make up the 10% with LC. What problems do you see? Not really much. I do that all the time. That is exactly the setup that I have published and told people to do. So that is a great way to go. So aerated LC is good for end use, spawn use, so making liquid spawn. And that is a way that I know a lot of places in Germany, like Pilzform, Eastern Europe, will do shiitake almost entirely that way. In Asia, you'll have shiitake, enoki, king oysters, and things like that are really prone to they're really easy to go from liquid culture to bulk. And then oysters you have to coax sometimes, but like doing the mix that you're talking about with the whole oats, the oysters take really well to that every time. So that's one of the reasons why I like the grain spawn fruiting, the grain and sawdust blend, is that you can go liquid culture practically from anything liquid culture to bulk really easy. So that's really the biggest thing. So if you're like really wanting to know problems, the problems with that is that you have to have really good quality control. You have to have really good clean LC. So the best thing to do is to make a really good master that's not aerated, because aerated is more prone to contamination, genetic drift, some other things. And if you get a good system going, then you can do a positive pressure with sterile air, and it ends up being more secure in that line, but only if your quality control is better, because the moment you start pumping air in there, the bacteria will go crazy. So that's the biggest problem I see, is a lot of people don't have good enough quality control of their liquid culture. You can go liquid culture to grain spawn a lot of times and have bacteria hitchhiking, and you will never notice it in the grain spawn. But if you scan that LC with a scope or test it on a plate, so a lot of times it'll go bacterial, or you can see the bacteria in the scope. And it just doesn't seem to want to take on the outside of whatever grain hole or whatever you have. So that's the biggest problem. It's always quality control. That's why we do so much quality control for our stuff. Because especially if you're going to buy our stuff, I really hate when contaminated ALC goes out. I hate it. It's like a knife to the heart. It happens to everybody that does it. It's just the nature of the beast. But we go through really great lengths. We hold batches. We hold batches that are questionable for even longer. And usually what we do if we have a questionable batch, because, you know, it's sugar water at that point, is that we end up doing, we just make a new batch and just try to, we will observe and keep that one around. But if the new batch grows in just fine, then we just dump the other batch and don't really worry about it. So that said, aerated is one of my favorite ways because I love watching the bubbles. It reminds me so much of aquaculture. Brings me way back to my early days of, when was I? I was 20 years old, 21 years old. Did not realize how good of a job that was at the aquaculture place. Had a couple of run-ins with management. For the most part, management just left you alone and you could just do your own thing. And the president of the company was great. It was his dad I didn't really get along with. And I was too young. He was way too mature and I was way too young to realize that I should have just stood up to him. So, but that is neither here nor there. The aerated bubbles are what I go crazy for. Bubbles, 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 bubbles. Do you try to make your own spawn of agaricus species? I don't do agaricus species for the most part. I don't really do anything agaricus. No, okay. I make, let's see. I have done the almond agaricus, and that is agaricus. What is the last name of that? Subrufescens, the almond agaricus, and that is, you know, that's a good one. And I do make spawn for that. Wine cap, but I don't think wine caps. No, that's a Stropharia rugo. Let me look that up. Rugoso annulata. I'd forgotten that. So that's not an agaricus. So I guess almond agaricus is the only agaricus I grow. It's just not one that I'm really into. I am what I call a white rot specialist. Stay in the easy lane. New Redden based on weight, wet weight or dry weight, substrate kind, strain. Caught you, bro. Well, I mean, if we're talking biological efficiencies and stuff, that's a good question. What is he getting based on as he's doing wet weight or dry weight? That is a good question, actually. Is there a mushroom beer? There is mushroom beer and wine. Now, do you consider a beer that has mushrooms as ingredients as a mushroom beer or a beer with mushrooms? There is a practice, I think it's in Japan, could be Korea, where they ferment wine using enoki mycelium. And enoki will produce alcohol in the presence of oxygen, unlike yeast. Yeast need CO2, a CO2-ridden environment. So there are very small niche wine companies in Japan that do enoki wines. But I don't know much about the process. I think it's literally just like doing liquid culture. And I do wonder if there's a huge difference in flavor between the golden and the white. But I don't know much about the brewing process using enoki mycelium. I love observing mushrooms in nature, but chicken out on eating most out of fear of misidentification. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I really don't. I know a lot of people. A lot of people will talk about, well, yeah, once you get too familiar with it, and you like, there are ones that are easy. That's the ones I would stay with. But then I've done that with water celery and stuff, where I was like, oh, water celery, yeah, but it's kind of looks like something poisonous, kind of, right? So then I chickened out on wanting to eat the water celery. We've had mushroom experts who have misidentified stuff and killed themselves, or other people, or that kind of thing. It's rare. It's really, 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 really rare. I would not suggest you go about in a state of paranoia, but I don't think there's anything wrong with approaching this with caution, especially if you're new. Get into it, be cautious, work it out a little bit at a time, get your familiarity, allow it to take years, pass that knowledge off to your kids. That way your kids don't have to do it for years, that kind of thing. Or they can, you make it as part of your family. That's what Ben and Stephanie and their kids, they just go hiking and hunt mushrooms, and they eat a lot of what they find, and, but they've started with the easy ones. So, I think that's the perfect way to do it. I don't think there's no hurry. There's no rush for you to become, super, super into it. You tend to have people branch wildly. So like mushroom people tend to be mushroom people to outsiders, but you have people that specialize in indoor cultivation. Then you have people that specialize in foraging. You have people that specialize in outdoor cultivation, right? So they kind of break, we all kind of break ranks there. I started mushroom hunting hoping I could make some money at it, realized I could, but the money was so much better if I grew mushrooms. The mushroom was more stable, and wealth is not necessarily attained by a stable, predictable income, but it is certainly helped out by a stable, predictable income. Shirley Bro, dry weight. The substrates I used were wheat straw. Yeah, wheat straw is a great one. And then, so you're saying 100 kilograms dry got you 30 kilograms wet of mushrooms? I can identify certain milky caps while foraging for chanterelles. I pick them and want to cook them, but I never do. The chanterelles are, oh yeah, and chanterelles are, the nice thing with those is they're easy. I've not really had a ton. I should say certain chanterelles are really easy, but chanterelles are so, I mean, how that smell is so intoxicating. How could you not? they are irresistible. Morels. So, Caden, you live around here, so you know this. And I don't. Are you from here, Caden? Or did you move here? Because like I'll say, growing up, the people around here are very, very fungophobic, and that's changing, especially in Knoxville. But even around here, I'm one county over, and we still have the old people that are just like morels. Morels are the only mushroom they'll touch unless they come out of a can and are on pizza, kind of thing. And morels, they're really great. They're one of the mushrooms that people really are like, that's like their first mushroom, especially around here. But I will tell you that after I got into shiitake, I feel like shiitake beats the pants off morels. Morels are cool, but shiitake just absolutely obliterates them when it comes to delectability. So the chanterelles, I feel like, beat morels. Like, I know it's sacrilege to say, I've probably lost some points. My mushroom lover's card has now been revoked, but they're just not that good compared to some of the others. There are many, many cultivated mushrooms that are so much better than morels. Relentlessly pioneering, you're the man. Well, thank you very much. Grow Fresh, Texas. That picture is too small for me to see who that is, but it looks familiar. Is that Josiah? It kind of looks like Josiah. What is the problem with commercial strains? It's hard to make spawn, for example, white button mushroom. Well, I don't know that there's necessarily any problem with commercial strains. Now, again, white button mushrooms are an agaricus, and that's not one that I specialize in. I do not really do a lot of dung lovers and things like that. That's just not my cup of tea. And then because I started a farm in my basement, I didn't want to bring manure into my basement, even if it was composted. So I thought it was much easier to sell to the landlord if he knew it was just sawdust, right? So we had that. The problem with commercial strains, I guess, would be that a lot of times people, when you're buying from the big companies, and I don't know where you're at, Youth, but like Lambert's, Amasil, Sylvan, I can't remember all the others. My brain's going to explode from the lack of sleep. But those guys, they tend to take their spawn out pretty far, generation after generation. Don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. I used Lambert's 20-pound bags for a long time when I first started, because Lambert's was the only place I could find any good quality genetics early on. And I think they're still running those same strains, and they're probably still really good. They're 123 blue. I think it's a 126 gold and a 140 brown or something, or 124 brown, or I can't remember. But those are three. Well, back in the day, those were my three foundational strains to use on the farm before I started bioprospecting and breeding my own stuff. And the Lambert's genetics has contributed pretty heavily early on in the breeding program. I mean, it's been pretty muddled now with a lot of, wild stuff. But so I don't know that it's necessarily wrong, that there's anything wrong with it. But I would say that commercial spawn has been bred to be used in a certain way. It's been extended about as far as you can take it a lot of times. So it will be harder to make spawn from spawn you buy from some of the large companies. But then also a lot of the commercial people they're breeding ever more inbred strains, trying to squeeze out another 0.5% in yield, another 0.5% in speed. They only breed for 2 or 3 different things. It's usually not for the farmer really to make money, or for you to find delicious. And that has changed some. I'm starting to see a wider variety of strains. That did not exist back in the day. But that's really, I guess, the thing that I would say about commercial strains. So morels are unmistakable when you see them. I see black morels locally after they do controlled burns. Yeah, see, if you're where they do controlled burns and you're able to pick those, like, that's the time to get morels. Around here, I'll hunt and hunt and hunt and hunt. I'll find 6 morels all year. So the last couple of years, I've just stopped hunting morels. I'm just not doing it. Caton says, maybe you don't want me saying your name on the stream. I don't know. I probably should have asked. I've lived in Blount County since I was 5, so I wasn't born, but I was raised here. Okay, yeah, you're from here then. Yeah. I still haven't had a morel, but I want to stuff them with cheese and shrimp for my first go. So that's really where morels shine. Sauteed morels and ramps. Sorry, ramps. Onions if you can't get ramps. But morels and ramps, sauteed in butter, and then just poured out over a good medium rare, like ribeye. Oh my gosh, my stomach just grumbled. That's not good. It's me, Josiah. So it is Josiah. I knew. I could just tell. Somehow from your stance, I could just tell it was you. My favorite mushroom for flavor by far is shiitake, much like you. It's one of my least favorite. Yeah, it's one of my least favorite to cultivate. It is a mistake, I feel like, for a lot of people to get into, unless they're wanting to hire a lot of cheap labor and go distributor route. That said, you could make money growing shiitake on a small to medium scale, but you're going to make way better money growing oysters or lion's mane, chestnuts, black poplar, king oyster, that kind of thing. Shiitakes are the absolute king in flavor, but so labor intensive. I will say, Caden, that I've started doing the liquid culture to bulk on shiitake with no shake, and I'm getting really good results. So that removes labor from pretty much every mushroom, not just shiitake. It's the picking with shiitake. But you can go with some of the field and forest strains that produce larger mushrooms. And in the, don't tell a lot of people this, guys, even though I'm making it public. But that oats mix, if you try our tree fitty mix, where it's like 50% oats, whole oats, 50% sawdust, water, the moisture content up to 50%, you'll get shiitake blocks that fruit a lot faster. And if you focus on the strains that produce fewer but larger ones, they're way easier to pick. Any recommendations on field and forest shiitake strains that do great on logs and blocks? All of them do great on logs. Blocks, I have found that pretty much all of them will do well, but it's just about speed. Some of those log strains do not want to go. So any of them that are the wide range, early fruiting strains, like the fast spawn run ones that they have, those are really good. But 3790, that commercial shiitake, that one does really well on logs and blocks too. I didn't know that, but that strain was actually bred for both. At least that's what I read. I remember when the fella from Earth Angels, that'd be T.R. Davis, was buying commercial strains that he wasn't allowed to clone. He had to buy this strain for commercial use. You have experience with this? Yeah, I mean, there are companies, including myself, that don't allow resale. So, I mean, you're allowed to clone my mushrooms and use them in-house. But, you know, anything, since I put the terms and conditions on my website, there are certain strains that have only ever been released with those terms and conditions. So, like, King and Blue is out of the bag. There's not really anything I can do to stop anybody from selling that one, which kind of sucks because that's the most popular strain I've seen out there, probably. But pretty much everything else is protected. And so, you know, if you clone it, make spawn of it and sell it, you can. I don't care if you make spawn. If you buy it, I want you to use it in your op, but I want you to use it to grow mushrooms, fruiting kits, you know, for your market customers, that kind of stuff. I don't want you making and selling plates or cultures and things like that and selling my stuff. So that's the biggest thing. And I do license strains. I have strains that I do license out to people. So that's one of the big things is that, you know, I've got strains that I'm breeding that are so amazing, but because there's so many resellers out there, I'll only ever license that strain. I'll never release it publicly. So, yes, it's to protect reputation. What's the name of it? Reputational what? Reputational integrity. Yeah, because the amount of people we've got like that order Pathfinder from us and said they've tried Pathfinder from other sources and they just didn't grow, or they didn't grow well, or they didn't fruit, and then say that it's a crappy strain. And it's like, no, it's just you got to take care of it. You got King Blue, that kind of thing. It's not just about that too. I mean, it's about in part making sure that I can feed my kids and that I can make a retirement and that I can actually live a human life. You know, so all of that. I'm not looking to get super wealthy off all this. I just want to make sure I can put shoes on my kids' feet, and you know, when my daughter gets married, I can continue to do the work I enjoy. Yeah. I've only had maitake once in a dish, so I could change my preference of it. So maitake is one of the few that actually really competes, in my opinion, with shiitake. I love maitake. It is fantastic. And I don't even open my bags anymore because I found the chefs are just as happy with lumps as they are fronds. And I've thought about calling it the maitake truffle. Just like she had no comment. What is the best media we can use for the wild white button mushrooms, please? At what stage? I mean, if it's agar, you can use malt extract agar works just fine for buttons as far as I know. But they're not wild, I don't think. I don't think you're going to find them wild, are you? Thanks for holding this space, Andrew. Got to head out. Absolutely, Sundown. Thank you for joining us. And I'm happy to. Getting ready to have about 300 to 500 logs dropped off. 3790 is what I keep getting recommended. Yeah, I mean, so, you know, if you were to ask me for some shiitake spawn right now, that's what I have available. But if it was me, and I was going to do it, I would get a variety of strains. I would get what I could afford to get. I wouldn't go too crazy, but I might go. I'd look for interesting. If it was me, I'd look for interesting genetic traits that I might then want to breed once they grow. I can spore print them, and then I might start breeding them. So, I mean, I am starting to breed shiitake here, so I'm collecting spore prints of all kinds of different ones. I did actually grow their Jupiter strain. I did actually get that to grow indoors. I think I was making the spawn for that when you were here for your mentorship. Any plans for new areas to bioprospect this year? Anything unusual you are after other than Hericium and Pleurotus? Also, how is the mycologium going? So we're over 600 strains in some phase of process of being stored. So the majority of those are in some sort of long-term storage, but the rest of them are strains that we're trying either to get processed, cleaned up, or transferred to slants. And then I just got 4 new oysters here locally. Samantha found oysters over at my Nana and Gramps' we were driving. She's the one that saw them. But usually I'm the person that sees this stuff, but Samantha's been on it lately. Did Charles and Leanne bring any mushrooms over? Only Charles? Okay. Well, they found some, but then I don't know if they bagged them up and have them for us or not. So we'll see if those come in. But as far as areas, I haven't really looked around yet. Right now, oysters are popping with it being so warm, and people have just been bringing them to me. I've had some new Hericiums brought to me. I had a buddy from mine. He's actually from a couple counties over, but he's been fishing down here at Mossy Creek, and he found 2 different oysters. And he found a blue oyster down there in the marsh, and he found a really, really, really dark brown. I have a sneaking suspicion that blue oyster is an escapee from my farm. So we have a lot of areas around here, man. I'm hoping to do some work with Josh McGinnis. He and I've been talking here lately again about trying to do something, and he's got some property somewhere that is not too far away that maybe he and I can both go prospect. So as far as areas, I don't have any good plans out. I don't really know. I'm going to hit the lakes again. I'll probably hit Douglas Lake a fair amount this year. It's a shallow, warm water lake. It's the lake I grew up on. Here lately, we've been going to Cherokee. So any footage you've seen is usually Lake Cherokee, and I like that one a lot. That one's a deep, cold water lake, and it makes for some good, deeper fishing. But I'm more of a panfish guy anyway, so Douglas is better for that. More crappie in Douglas. And so I'll probably hit Douglas, hit the islands. I'm going to try to go camping this year, invite my son and his fiance to go. And I don't know, maybe I'll see if I can get my parents out there on the I doubt it, but we'll see if I can't get a trip out there to one of the islands and just stay and then bounce and mushroom hunt. As far as any other spaces, I probably won't be hiking a ton of mountains this year, but I'm going to try to get Samantha and I to go back to our old days of Samantha and I used to hike all the time when we were youngsters. And so I'd like to get back into that as much as possible, even if I've got to go slow and steady and hack myself to death. You want to do Charlie's Bunyan with me? I don't want to die. With the kids. Maybe you can take the kids. It might take me a year to get up there. I don't know. I don't remember how bad that actually is. Yeah. Yeah, the old growth was before I had all my oxygen problems, yeah. And then anything unusual I'm going other than Hericium and Pleurotus? No, I mean, nothing unusual in particular. I mean, polypores. I collect polypores like crazy, but in particular, maitake, chicken of the woods. I have a huge stack of maitake and chicken of the woods plates I have got to process and get into long-term storage. I am so behind on those 2 species, and I have a lot of interesting ones that I do not want to lose, so I've got to get those up quick. And then I can't really think of anything else. I'll probably do some cordyceps this year. So I'll probably go hit the chimney tops. Not the chimney tops. Gosh. What am I thinking of, Samantha? Where we go and have our picnics. It's like Dad's favorite place, right there on the creek in the Smokies. Is that the chimney top? Is that a picnic area? Cade's Cove area. Yeah, yeah. Okay. The chimney tops are up on the mountain, aren't they? Yeah, that's not. I was thinking down at the creek itself. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, I've got some people giving me some advice on how to find and bioprospect wild cordyceps, and so I want to try that some this year. Hmm. It does, as long as is it mossy, because apparently that's important. It needs to be really mossy. Yeah. I would like to go up Mount LeConte again, and probably could do the easy hike. It might take me all day, but I could probably do it. I won't do from Mount LeConte to Newfound Gap again, like Charles and I did, and then hike all the way back down. There's nothing wrong with protecting your hard work. Thank you. I appreciate it. Not everybody's been so understanding, man. You might be surprised at how many people get angry that I try to protect the work that I put into this. A lot of people will get really, really, really upset. It's actually surprised us a lot. But hearing that some Chinese farmers are successfully growing morels commercially, no, it's possible. It's definitely possible. The question is whether they're doing it in a way that makes fiscal sense, and maybe there's some way about that market. But I haven't seen like a flood of Chinese morels hitting the American markets, so I don't think they're able to do it cheaply yet. And that's really the big thing, is people trying to get it. Like the Dutch Morel project has been going on for 10 years now or more. And I still haven't seen, those flooding the market. So yeah, Samantha said that so far basically the most profitable way so far is chasing the wildfires. I can't remember exactly every word she used, but crazy juggler. He's a crazy kind of guy. Any tips for growing King Blue? I got some from a friend, and it colonizes fast, but for some reason I can never get any pins. It probably doesn't need cold. 65 degrees or lower will be better. But blue oysters I'll tell you how much blue oysters love cold. King Blue specifically, my bad. It'll go up to about 70 or so, but 65 is going to be your best. Down in the 50s, it'll do even better. I have seen King Blue grow outside on a log or in a block. Grow outside, freeze solid about halfway growing through, thaw out, and then finish growing. So it likes cold. It loves the colder you can get, the better. But it is a fast mushroom for sure. And it really likes cool temps. Blue oysters are almost always going to like blue. Here in the mitten, that'd be Michigan, right? There's not many mushrooms at the moment itching to go over. We've got them right here, but only because we have an unusually warm spell going on right now. It is January, and I have plants growing outdoors. My tulips, by the way, your tulips survived. My tulips are popping out right now in the front tubs. Huh? That's a first. I've never been able to keep tulips. That's the big thing. I can keep so many different things alive. But for Samantha, I have tried tulips for her so many times, and I can never. Tulips and hydrangeas. I'm going to try the oak leaf hydrangea. I am in love with the oak leaf hydrangea. But hiking in nature is the best. It is absolutely that, or wood cutting. That's my Gramps used to stay in shape cutting wood, and then he would just heat his entire house all winter off the wood that he was cutting. And he really he was cheap. He talked about it was the best form of heating because it warmed you twice and gave you exercise and a healthy body and saved you a ton of money. And I was like, that's good tech. That's tasty tech is what that is. More times than not, when I find mushrooms, they are either buggy with holes or have chunks bitten from them. That's another reason why it's not just finding mushrooms. It's not just finding where mushrooms grow. It's about finding the mushrooms at the pristine moment, the moment they are mature enough to take, but not so mature that the bugs have gone crazy through them. And when you have warm weather like this, the bugs are already going crazy. So, do you have any experience with wood ear? I do. I have an agar plate from a Chinese market wood ear, and I'm not sure if it's wood ear mycelium or just contam. It is kind of wispy. I have a couple of wild ones from out back here too. The wild ones have been a little wispier than the commercial red and brown. And I think that Jake Howard has got an albino one even. So there are some interesting ones, but it would be kind of hard for me to describe, I guess. It's wispy-ish, but not as wispy as lion's vein. It's tomatose, but not quite as tomatose as kind of cottony as oysters. I don't know that I know the word for it. Get you a gator or four-wheeler to hit the trails. I've thought about that too. And Samantha, I've never ridden a four-wheeler. I am like the only redneck guy I know that's never ridden a four-wheeler. Samantha grew up on four-wheelers. I think we should you know what? Let's get a trailer and get four-wheelers and we'll start. But I assume that limits us to certain, like, where we ride them. Huh? Fire roads? I don't know. Around here, you don't see, when I was been out in the woods around here, you never see four-wheelers. Like when you go to the national forest and stuff. I do like the gators. We went up to a guy's property up in Steedville and rode his side-by-side around. That was super fun. Okay, so yeah, there are certain designated trails we could use. Also, can you do the king blue on straw? You can. It will not. Nothing's going to give you anything you grow on straw that could grow on sawdust. Sawdust will give you a better yield, but you can absolutely grow on straw, and the king blue will absolutely do it. Though it's not really bred for that. I think you're going to get your best results on sawdust. I have strains that'll do really well on straw, and have been bred for straw grows. So like the mother of pearl on my website is a fantastic straw growing mushroom. So is any of the golden oysters and things like that. Pinks will grow just fine. But Yeti's breath will also do really well on straw. Though that is actually, it's mother of pearl is one of the mothers of Yeti's breath. It's definitely warmer than normal. I may be able to start my garden early this year. North Carolina is famous for sneaky frost. Yeah, I'm going to keep that stuff indoors. I have forgotten. You realize we forgot to plant our peppers on time this year. We normally do our peppers between Christmas and the New Year, and we've been. Yeah, Samantha's got stuff set up for me, but I haven't done it yet. I do have a lot of peppers. I also have pepino melons I'm going to do, and some other things. And I've got to get all the seeds sanitized, the outer coats, before, and the media made up because I'm sprouting all those in sterile containers this year. But yeah, I think that we'll probably end up having. I will not do it because this is the kind of stuff that happened, 93 for the blizzard of 93 around here that everyone still remembers. And they are calling. I've already, for what I've seen, the climatologists are calling for some extreme events this year. So that'll usually mean that things will be warm, and then we're just going to get 1-2 punched. It's going to be way warmer than normal, so everything's going to start sprouting. Way colder than normal, so everything's going to get killed off. Way warmer than normal again. It's just that things go like, oh, okay, well, guess we'll sprout again. And then colder again. It's probably just going to be like that. I forgot the band that goes down the middle of the United States, kind of shaped like, like that. And from what I understood, that is very unstable this year. We have a weak La Nina this year, So it's going to do some really interesting. If you guys follow commodities or anything like that, agricultural commodities are going to be interesting this year. Not that every commodity seems to be going interesting. So, all right, guys. I again drink that half gallon of water. So we're going to hear another word from our sponsor. Imagine a world where the most unique, rare, and powerful mushroom strains are preserved, studied, and shared with growers like you. That's exactly what we're building with the Mycologium, a living archive of fungal biodiversity, sourced from the wild, expanded in the lab, and made available for researchers, growers, and curious minds alike. But here's the best part. You can be a part of it. If you're a bioprospector, a forager, or just someone who loves finding cool mushrooms in the wild, you can send in your samples. If you send me in a wild mushroom and I can successfully clone it, I'll send you back a cleaned up culture of it. If you send me a culture that you've already cleaned up yourself, I'll send you one for our library, ready to grow, experiment with, or add to your collection. That's right. Culture for culture. You help expand the library, and you get something amazing in return. The goal? To preserve fungal diversity, to give people access to new genetics, and maybe, just maybe, to discover something truly groundbreaking. So if you've got an interesting mushroom, a rare find, or a strain that deserves a place in the archives, send it in. Let's build something incredible together. The Mycologium, preserving fungal biodiversity, one culture at a time. Want to learn more? Hit us up, shoot us a message, and let's keep spawning culture, y'all. Man, also that fan, I didn't realize how loud that was till I take my headphones off. Are you guys hearing a whine? Because I've got a new fan put on my computer, courtesy of a Christmas gift that one of the Mush Bros got me. And we're on Battlefield 6 right now, though I've been wanting to go back to Helldivers. But anyways, the fan is running because I found that it really helps when I'm recording or editing or streaming. It has kept my computer at 24 Celsius or below on my GPU. Right? Is that the GPU? Yep, GPU 2. GPU 1 is 26. My CPU is actually at 40. Hooray. Uh-oh. It says that I just dropped my Facebook audience. There seems to be something wrong with the stream now. I lied. It's all gone to pot. Anyways, if you guys hear that whine of the fan, let me know. But I can't hear it, which means you guys probably can't because I've got it where I can hear myself. Let's see. We have got about 10 minutes before I'm jumping off, fellas and ladies. So anything that you want to ask, the time is now because I'm going to call it. I'm not doing a 3-hour one tonight. I slept not at all. I felt terrible all night long. I woke up so hard that I could feel the bags under my eyes. So poor Samantha, I probably kept her up all night tossing and turning and coughing and spitting up and blah, blah, blah. And then she had to get up earlier, like 2 hours earlier than I did to go take the kids to school. Do need to get Brody where he could just drive them both to school. That's the way to do it. All right, so it seems like we may not have any more questions, so I may go ahead and just sign off. Oh, somebody jumped in. What we got? We have the Hydro Project. That's an interesting name. Hydro Project, tell me a little bit about yourself in the comments, please. I would like to know what the Hydro Project is. I like water. I like water projects. It's had to do with making electricity with dams, like, or is it protecting water? What have you got coming up this year? The tissue culture sounds like a blast. For like the YouTube channel or for the teaching, I have the classes. Of course, we're doing 12 classes this year. So we're doing everything from cordyceps to extracts to gardening with mushrooms to culture basics, liquid culture deep dives. And I actually do think it's worth taking, like, even though we have 2 mushroom cultivation basics, it's not a bad idea to take both or to take both of the liquid culture deep dives, because each time we're doing them, we get a little bit better. And we also teach some of the new tech that we've learned since the last class. But as far as that goes, I'm doing tissue culture for sure. We're doing our gardens this year over the channel. My plan is to, don't worry about it. But yeah, over this year, my plan is to show off our entire value cascade that we've built over the past couple of years, and really kind of perfected a lot of it last year. So the idea is to start with mushrooms and then get the benefits out of those, take the waste streams from the mushroom farm, make it easier to grow plants and things like that, bugs, whatever. Take the bugs to like cordyceps, bugs to chickens, bugs to whatever. Take all of the compost, the spent sub, grow like especially marshland plants, but those some terrestrial ones. Doing food crops and beauty crops like aesthetic crops like flowers, things like that. We're really big into aquatics, in part because I got my start in aquaculture, but also because I just think it's the right leverage point. Like, it's one of those things that makes sense. So we're going to go over that whole system over the year. And so I'm vlogging. I want to do 52 vlogs this year. So 1 video per week. And then I would like to do about 52 live streams, just Q&As. And then I would like to do 12 classes plus a couple of bonus classes. So it's basically going to be teach. But in the meantime, we're restarting up our spawn system program. So that's going to be another month or so away. I have really invested in some liquid culture infrastructure. So we've got that coming down the line. And that actually, I was like, okay, I just sold off a little bit of the silver and then bam, bought these vessels. So we're going to work into that. And then the idea is to take that into spawn. That is both affordable and to get really, 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 really good at fast fulfillment. That is our plan this year. So we're going to teach, and then we're going to work on fast fulfillment. And we're going to see how we can do it. I know it can be done on spawn. We're just going to try it Samantha's way. We're going to build inventory and ship the inventory. That is what we've. Samantha wants me to ask you what you think about creating inventory as we work through strains and creating a drop. So that is the plan. We're going to offer like 4 strains on tap, and then we're going to create drops, culture drops. So Samantha wants to know what you guys think about that. Because King Blue, like I've continued to improve it over time. That's true. So as we improve it, what? And come back around to it, having done the work, it gives us the opportunity to create a grain spawn drop that everyone can then buy in. Though I will say I'm going to make that limited and first come, first serve. Yeah. Because I have to make it simple, yeah. She said that way we're not stuck in limbo on how much do we make for how many orders, how many get ordered. Oh my goodness. You know, now we're overwhelmed. Now things have been kicked back. Or for the fruits before we ship it, that kind of thing. So, yeah. Colin said he likes strain drops. Barbara said, what are strain drops? Strain drop would just be like, okay, so if we're offering 4 types of spawn on tap all year, and that stuff can be shipped immediately. The other side of it would be I would make spawn in the lab of a brand new variety, and we would drop that strain on the website. It would be called a strain drop. And then you would have liquid culture available of it, but then you would have maybe 30 bags of spawn that are available for grabs. They're up for grabs. And then just every now and then we would have a strain drop. It's like, hey, this is a one-off production. We're not keeping this on tap. When it's gone, it's gone. It's first come, first serve. That kind of thing. Do you have a date locked in for the Survival Podcast interview? I mean, they didn't say anything about it. I couldn't talk about it. So my interview's on the 14th. So I would think so. I don't know. I've never talked to Jack, so I don't really know. I've only listened to him. So yeah, I'll be on the Survival Podcast. I'll be interviewing on the 14th. I don't know when they release that stuff. I don't know if they release it day of, or if they edit any of it down, or anything. So it'll be next week, Wednesday, I think, is when I'm doing the interview with Jack. I'm actually a little nervous about it. I'm a little nervous about it. Jack's got a much bigger following than I do. So if it goes bad, that's bad for me. And if it goes good, that could be bad for me because I might get overwhelmed. The Hydro Project is because I took an interest in hydroponics for the first time a few years back. And it's been a journey on learning to grow better since. Excellent. I gotcha. I'll be interested to see it as it all comes through. It sounds super exciting. You're going to be busy. I am definitely going to be busy. But the nice thing is that we've simplified a lot of things to where now we can just work our system. And I get to go a lot slower, and I get to show the system as I work it, rework it. And then hopefully, as people see it, I'll get new ideas brought back to me. That was what happened when I started mushrooms. Part of why I started the YouTube channel was to give information to people to arm them to do better in their own mushroom journeys. But then I knew, because Gramps always told me, if you wanted to get better at something, you teach something. I started teaching it, and then people started correcting me in ways that they knew better. And then they brought whole new pathways open to me, right? And so that's the thing that I'm really enjoying. And I think you're seeing a lot of people get into educating on how to grow mushrooms and do this kind of stuff. And I think that that's actually a good thing. I know that it's going to be there's kind of a flood of that right now. This year is like a year of people figuring out teaching is the way to go. And I do think that that's good, but like, I hope that I'm able to teach 300 new farms this year. Those farms then will host local classes where they're teaching 30 people, 40 people each, right? Then you get people with at least basic understanding and appreciation of this, which grows the market that we are all growing into in the first place. So that's kind of what I would like to see happen. Myco Nerd, good to see you. I hope you get to hear us say goodbye. I like to strain drops. I like to strain when I'm dropping. What is strain drops? Oh yeah, I answered that. My bad. I'm based in New Zealand, so it's hard for me to be a reference point of market, but I love the idea. Heck yeah. I belong to a makers group. Could I get you to give a talk one night? Probably. How far are you away? I know we're not too far. You've told me where you're at before, and I'm just never going to remember it, I don't think. But yeah, I mean, I've been asked to do, I've got couple of festivals I'm speaking at this year. I have some groups that I'm going to do. We're going to try to do a monthly mushroom club in conjunction. I want to get Misty Mountain Mushrooms in on it. I was going to get Everything Mushrooms in on it, but apparently they've closed. And then ET Fungi. And then Ryan from Everything Mushrooms might still be a part of it. I don't really know. I don't know what he's doing now. So you're in Knoxville? Yeah. Okay. Then yeah, I could definitely give it a talk. Yeah, you're not far at all. Garden clubs too. I've got a couple of garden clubs I think that are supposed to have me this year. I need to check my schedule. I really enjoy the educational side of it all. Yeah, I mean that's my favorite thing. I did not realize it would be my favorite thing. In fact, I thought it would be my least favorite thing. But I always enjoyed my mentorships, even though we've actually stopped doing that. We're not doing the mentorship program anymore, except online. Let me take that back. I have brought people in on the mentorship thing. So I've got people who did mentorships and that I've taught, who I would now push you to give your money to them so that they can teach and move up in the system. So you're going to do great. You do so well on Livestream, bouncing off our comments. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And hopefully, I mean, like, Jack is an interesting fellow, and I think he can throw me some curveballs. But to be fair, you guys have thrown me some curveballs too. I've been reading up on commercial hydro and greenhousing. Finding good practical experience locally has been a challenge. Educating has been a big question over here. I know of some guys that do hydroponics and now teach hydroponics. And I think that we're going to see, already have seen, and are going to see a big boom in, I don't know if this is the right term. Biohacking, I don't think is the right term. But maybe it is biohackers. It's just different types. But like, what was it, Samantha? The 70s is when we saw like a big influx of plant people. Like we saw people starting to grow and breed plants at home. I mean, I know they've always done that, but I was thinking that, weren't you the one telling me this?
It's kind of a cycle.
Yeah.
It's like every 35 to 40 years.
Every 35 to 40 years, you see the cycle.
Really popular as a hobby.
Growing plants becomes really popular as a hobby. Okay.
The Victorian era happened.
The Victorian era it happened. The 70s it happened. And the data and statistics is showing it's happening again. I do wonder, though, because we live in the internet age, I feel like fads never truly die now. Like, you get niche groups that kind of keep some momentum, and there might be a up and down in metrics. But I feel like there's going to be, the internet allows things to have life to them for longer. Right, because now there's a greater now there's capability of providing a niche interest. Okay. Whereas before it was what? Limited to brick and mortar. Right, so they had to cycle through interest, chase the fads more. Yeah. She said to make more money. Yeah, and now you're right, to just be able to keep eating. You're right. So yeah, I think the internet allows further fracturing. It allows there to be more niches supported simultaneously. So, and then you get into the weird guys like me who are like, I want it all. I want the whole system. I want animal life and plant life and bacterial life and fungi life. What am I missing? What kingdom am I missing? Yeah, 5 kingdoms. What did I miss? Animalia, plants, fungi, bacteria, archaea? I think, yeah. Yeah, I think that's it. Kingdoms of Life. Oh, I guess there's 6. No, 5 Kingdoms of Life. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's what I was taught in school. Monaria, Protista, fungi, plantea, and animalia. Okay. Got it. Okay. Anyways. I don't remember what I was talking about now. Oh, this whole cycle. I think that the cool thing is that we'll get into the point where mushrooms will no longer be like a up and down thing every decade or so. It'll be where there is a, right now we're seeing a spike in curve, and I think eventually it'll grow to a plateauing or a like a sustainable plateau or even like a sustainable growth model at some point. Found you guys when I started. Really appreciate all the info you have shared with the community. Well, thank you very much. I'm glad that you found us. I would like to have more. Subscribe, please. There are more. Myco Nerd, I thought you left us. The more people interested in mushrooms, the better. I agree, 100%. I started a mycology group on Mattermost? It's Mattermost. Our chat group. I've been making cultures and have some lion's mane culture syringes to share with the group. Nice. Off-topic question, but I'm dealing with 2 wild lion's mane strains and there seems to be conflicting information on how it's supposed to look on agar. I've only dealt with wild, so not sure on anything. Okay, so here's the thing. When it comes to wild cultures and genetics, you can forget all the common commercially available knowledge. Lion's mane is going to be a wispier than oysters are most of the time. But I have oysters that are just as wispy and floofy as lion's mane or other Hericium mycelium. And then other lion's manes will grow in nice and thick and cottony. It's rarer, but I would say they should be kind of wispy and fluffy. But that said, if it's wild, there's so much genetic diversity in wild strains. Even strains like, so we did this as a kind of a study, and I don't have genetic sequencing done on these strains or anything yet, but we have like the Devil's Back oyster. We have the Devil's Back up trail. And this is geographical locations. The Devil's Back is a spine of rocks in Panther Creek State Park. So you have these oysters that were found and sampled, down the road or down this trail, and just feet away. And then you bring them in, you grow them in the grow room and see what they do, just what their phenotype looks like. And they're vastly different. And my thought at first would be like, okay, the way spores work and they're moving around, obviously things that are in a similar geographical area are going to be very, very close in phenotype. And that's just not been the case. So I wonder if there is, so I should say that there's a ton of phenotypic diversity in mushrooms in the wild, even from mushrooms that are feet away from each other. Genetically, I can only assume that if it's that way phenotypically, then there is a lot of genetic diversity. It could be environmental cues and things like that. Mushrooms do work a lot off of epigenetics, so there could be epigenetic switches being thrown around. So it could just be that they could be genetically identical for all I know until I get them sequenced, and then see if this one had this switch turned on and this one had this switch turned on or off or whatever. And so there's a lot of work to be done, and it's going to be a while before we get there. So I can't make you any promises. The best verification is growing it out. The second best verification is DNA. The tissue culture paired with pretty much anything growing is a great balance. I relate. I want it all. I took horticulture as an adult student, and each step of the way is like more. Yeah. I mean, it's so. Yeah, the tissue culture is opening up a lot of possibilities. One of the ones that I played with last year was taking wine cap mycelium and putting that to the roots of sterilely grown plants, and saw fusion going on, right? This year, what I'd like to do is do that, and then have Samantha, who has way steadier hands than I have, slice some of that root mycelium cross-section, make some cross-section slides, and stain them, and then, maybe even do some squash mounts and things like that, and just see what we can see. To see if we can see the mycelium growing into the root, some of those connections. I'll probably do some stereoscope observations first. So I really just want to play with this. I'm obsessed with mycorrhizal mushrooms. I'm obsessed with spalting. I'm obsessed with everything. Screw it. I always get this way. I get passionate and say, like, I'm super passionate about this thing. And then I realize, yeah, I'm passionate about that and like 15 other things. And I've got to pick one. Got to slow down, Andrew. Pick one. Mm-hmm. Any vids out there that... Oh, sorry. Did I read the rest of it? Yeah, I did. Okay. Any vids that are formative on the lion's mane strains? Not really, man. When you get into wild mushrooms, you are getting into a niche of a niche of a niche kind of thing. It's a valuable niche. I think it's one of the most valuable niches out there right now. I think more mushroom farmers should be doing it. I think foragers should be donating mushrooms to cultivators. I think that there should be this whole collection system. There should be regional genetic libraries being built before everything shifts. And I'm not just talking like there's no matter what, things are going to shift. So before I touch or don't touch your favorite political catastrophe, politicized catastrophe, I should say, don't get up in arms about it. Like, there are just so many reasons to bank genetic diversity. And it could just be literally that everything goes swimmingly and everything's great and diversity is still out in the wild. But now that we've collected this stuff, we can start looking at genetic strands and seeing what genetic strands are useful and where they are and selectively breeding for things and so on and so on. But as far as like people who are working on it and publishing information, there's not a lot of that, man. It's there's really not. It would be nice if people did. So if you could do videos yourself, even, and put that content out there. And some of the Facebook groups are some of the best places to do this a lot of times, because people can search. People can use mushroom groups as archives to search in. There's places like the Shroomery and everything else. So there's just a lot there. But the idea would be to make videos and say, hey, look, this doesn't look like your typical lion's mane mycelium, and this one does, and these are both wild mushrooms found in these areas, and I grew them both out, and here's what they both look like. Like, I need to be doing more videos like that, but the problem is I don't have all that time, and you probably don't either. So only dealt with wild oyster. These two lion's mane are my first lion's mane. So lion's mane is also a trickier one to clone. A lot of times lion's mane, if you cloned from fruit, it'll want a fruit off that fruit off that fruit. I may actually even have a picture of that readily available. Oh, actually, you guys saw that in the commercial that I did, so I don't even have to find that. I think it's like lion's mane has velocity. No matter what direction it's going, it takes a moment to course correct, and then when it builds that velocity, when it wants to fruit, it's going to fruit. When it wants to grow, it's going to grow. That kind of thing. Information on mushies, it absolutely is still spreading, and it's going to spread further. There's a lot more to go before we get as knowledgeable about the mushroom world, the kingdom of fungi, as we are about plants. And we still don't know all that much about plants. And we know a lot about plants, but we also don't know a lot about plants. Alabama strains. There you go. Oh my gosh. And yes, absolutely. Anything from the deep south, anything from the deep south is gold. And if you want to donate it to the Mycologium, I would love that. And I will trade you the plates. I have a Emory, Texas one I'm supposed to be getting out this week. I'm supposed to have it out Monday and missed that, but I'll have it out tomorrow. Anything that we can find from the deep south, I think, is going to be, not that every strain is golden, but there is a lot of value in the deep south for heat tolerance, for unique growing conditions. There's so much humidity in the deep south mixed with marshlands and, the forests and things like that. We have basically a lot of grow room like conditions that we would like to have replicated there. So, well, I thought you were leaving us. I was. You're right. I called you out. You're calling me out. Fair enough. I'm leaving. No. Goodbye. I do need to go. It is hard. You start. I swear, it's like you guys are like, I'm like, all right, guys, I'm going to jump off. And you guys are like, hey, tell me about this thing you're passionate about. Fair, thank you. Two completely different growth habits, one slow, one aggressive. So that's I'll give you an example, Eternals, and hopefully I'm not like beating a dead horse or anything like that. But someone sent me 2 strains from Michigan, and they're labeled just maple and birch. It was a roan, and I've not heard from Roan in years. I don't even know if he's still in the mushroom world. I don't think so, but I just have maple hericium and birch hericium, and I have not really ever grown them out. I just have them here, and so I've made spawn of them now to grow them out. The birch is very slow. It is one of the slowest moving hericiums I've ever seen. It's one of the most slowest mushrooms I've ever seen, period. And it was found on a birch tree. And then there was a hericium that unsurprisingly was found on a maple tree that I listed maple. And that is one of the fastest hericiums I have ever come across. So those two arrived on the same day. They were found, I think he said, very much in the same area. And one is incredibly slow and dense, and one is fast. And that's just the way it kind of goes, you know. When we get into the wild, we start seeing nature's shotgun effect, where it's like, let's just have a spectrum of different choices. It's kind of the old throw shit at the wall and see what sticks strategy is what it is. I'm building a soilless system at the moment. I'm definitely interested in this fusion. The market demands the organic connection. It'd be cool. Yeah, absolutely. I would be very interested to see how you, because mushrooms are really good at building soil, unless we mean something different by soil, I guess. I combined Alani with a potted grapefruit tree, if I could find out. Man, I had Alani spores that Alan Rockefeller had sent me, and I think I lost that spore print. And I never did do anything with it. That sucks. I run commercial product to encourage rhizobiology. Using homegrown would be much better. Yeah, absolutely, it would be much better. Plus, you get the vertical integration in your company. Quick question. I'm from Southwest Virginia, looking to start a mushroom farm, but there's nothing like that around here. I was just wondering, in your opinion, if you think it would be worth a try. So, Brandon, I would need to know more information. What's the closest metro to you? Where and how far is it from you? That's the two basic things I would need. Is it worth it? I think it's absolutely worth it. My favorite systems are market gardeners who buy spawn in, make blocks, fruit blocks, use the spent substrate to enrich their plants, and then they have a market garden and mushrooms. And if you just buy spawn in from a spawn supplier, doesn't have to be me, but if you buy your spawn in, then you've eliminated the vast majority of the complexity of the mushroom systems. And then you can focus on growing a product that you can now offer a full farm CSA that has the value of mushrooms and produce, that kind of thing. In small rural areas, I have found that that's usually what works best, is if you are doing a market garden where you're growing a little bit of everything and you're not getting retail prices, but you're getting paid way better than you would from restaurants, and it's pretty stable. And you could offer mushrooms as a way to bulk up the value in a very small square footage, that kind of thing. Southwest Virginia. So you're not in West Virginia, you're in Southwest Virginia. Southwest Virginia. Maps. So that means that you're probably not too far from me. And so looking at Virginia, how about I just do this? I'll probably just share the screen. Bristol. Okay, so you're not far from Bristol. Yeah, so you're not far from me. You're about like 2.5, 3 hours from me or something like that. So if we go to Tennessee, I want to remove your comment just so we can have more. Okay, so Southwest Virginia, Bristol. There's Bristol. So you're about 45 minutes from Bristol. So Abingdon, that's a beautiful, beautiful town. 45 minutes from Bristol puts you in a really good territory because Bristol's not going to be bad. You're not far from Kingsport. I know someone who grows up in the Elizabethton area, sells in Johnson City and stuff. I don't think they sell at Bristol or or Kingsport. I do know someone in Church Hill, but I don't think they're doing a lot yet either. And let's see, Bristol, real quick. Population of Bristol, Tennessee is about 27,000, 28,000. Kingsport is 55,000 to 58,000. Okay, so now you're getting closer. And then we have if you're 45 minutes away, Roanoke to Bristol. No, Bristol, Tennessee. Why would I want the UK? Okay. So that is about 2 hours away. Okay. So assuming that you're somewhere near Wifeville, let's see if you've said anything since then. Yeah, so I mean, if you're halfway between Roanoke and Bristol, then that puts you a little bit easier because that means you have one delivery day down to the Bristol area, one delivery day up to the Roanoke area. I will say, if you do live in Virginia and you do business in Tennessee, you're going to have to make sure you have if you sell in Tennessee, you're going to have a Tennessee business license. If you sell in Virginia, you're going to have a Virginia business license. So you'll need to check your laws, just FYI. But yeah, depending on where you're at. That said, I know people who make it much smaller areas. So I think that you'll be fine. And it's going to depend on how you run your business as well, more than it is the population size. But if you find the right sell point, I can help you easily with the right production system for your needs. The thing that will, kill you is going to be the boring stuff. So Lebanon, Virginia, I don't know where that is exactly, though I am familiar with it. We have a Lebanon, Tennessee, too. Okay, so Lebanon, Virginia is right there. So, okay, so you're kind of off the beaten path a little bit. So Lebanon to... Oh, shit. Just realized. If that's showing, 1 second. Lebanon, Virginia to Roanoke that's 2.5 hours. Yeah. But to Bristol, you're only 45 minutes. Yep. Okay. So I don't know how big like Norton is or anything else, but again, I don't think it's gonna be a big deal. I really don't think you might have to sell between Kingsport, Bristol, maybe some local stuff. Facebook Marketplace has actually been a good place for me for my CSAs. People message me, I just send them the link to my CSA. And you don't have to get very many CSAs before you have a really nice, reliable. Like, the problem with the CSA, I will make sure you know, is that you got to save your money, because if you sell like 6 months, you need to be able to provide for that whole 6 months, not just like 6 weeks, and then you've gone through and not done your due diligence and made sure that you have the ability to produce through all that stuff. So I think it'd be worth it. I'm specializing in local wild genetics. I think that's a great idea. I think a lot of people should definitely bring in local wild genetics. I don't know that I would take the optionality out of using other strains or anything like that, and only specializing that as a farm. But I know that there are people that have reasons for doing it. So, especially if you're growing around like an old growth forest, I think I would focus a lot on local wild genetics. But city growers and people out in just field and forest areas, I think I would just grow whatever. Whatever suits you is what I mean. I'm a zero experience for mushrooms person. I really like the idea of using coco coir for inoculating, as it's available in what I use. Would you have any advice on doing so? So that's typically for dung lovers. actives, things like that. I haven't tried oysters on coco coir. I don't see why it wouldn't work. You know, you can grow on pine pellets or sawdust pellets, any of that kind of stuff. So I actually stopped using coco coir for my plants whenever I started getting all this rich organic matter. Just to give you an example, I can find, oh, not share screen. Nope, cancel. I want a video file, and I want to find some dirt. Here, what about this? All right, we're going to watch this real quick. So like all of that's it's like it's like putty almost in your hand. That's 100% broken down mushroom substrate. And I just threw it in those buckets and it grows out. Seedlings. That's the best thing in the world for seedlings. And you can take it and throw it in a unicorn bag and sterilize it. Take it to your lab, wash your seeds, or even have clones that you've done through tissue culture, plant them in that sterile bag, grow them out to whatever stage you want, inoculate their roots with mycorrhizal spores or a mushroom strain, or even just transplant them and let them find their own wild partners, that kind of thing. Like, you might find that you're going to end up stop wanting to use that coco coir. In fact, one of the things I'd like to do, huh? Yeah, that bag acts like a terrarium. Absolutely, it does. One of the things I've been considering, and I think I'm going to do this year, but I haven't done it yet, is to take the white rot fungi, grow that out. I might then try to take all that substrate, rebag it, grow another mushroom on it, you know, that like easier to eat substrate. And then I might take that, break that down a little bit more into what I want for the plants to grow in. I might grow microgreens on it. And then when I have that mat done with all the microgreens trimmed off, and I have this big roll of a mass of roots and spent mushroom substrate or mushroom compost, I'll roll all that up. And then I'm going to throw that into bags probably and try to grow mushrooms on it again. Something like, probably something like portobellos or something at that point. So let me stabilize them, and even fruit and confirm, expand out. You will have them eventually. Absolutely, man. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. We are happy to. Made steaks with one, short hair, 3.3 pounds. Made crab cakes with other long spines. Same way. I can't wait. That sounds delightful. I will give you a little bit of a warning. Whatever it looks like in the wild, that is not how it's going to look like in the grow room. For whatever reason, it's never the same look. We've had stuff that look like lion's mane. We bring it into the grow room, and it ends up looking like comb tooth. Or we've had stuff that out in the wild have these big, chunky spines. You grow in the grow room, and it grows itty bitty little needles. So it's not what you see out in the wild is not always what you get. So this is where the selective breeding what comes into play. Yeah, refining the cultures and right. And that's one of the reasons why you got to test it. You can't just take it and be like, "Oh, this thing's massive. You should buy it because of how it looks in the wild." I'm not saying that you are or anything like that. I'm just saying that's one of the reasons why we have to go through so much care and testing and everything else. But it'll still be cool. Whatever it is, it'll still be cool. I'm right slap in the middle of Alabama, so this may work out for me. That'd be great, man. I mean, that's going to be good, interesting genetics, no matter what. I've not heard of anyone bioprospecting in Alabama yet. I've heard of people in Georgia. There's Florida. I finally got a couple people down there. I talked to, but never got to meet up with him. Someone who collects reishi specifically in Florida, because apparently around where we find reishi here is like on the islands, coastlines, dead spars that are standing when they flood the lakes back up, like when they raise the lake level back up. These dead spars, they'll start growing reishi right above the water line. And in Florida, you might imagine that does mushrooms really well. So it does reishi really well. I mean, you're very welcome. I like a hamburger bun. Good name. Thank you for taking the time to answer. Very welcome, Brandon. Every Etsy Amazon syringe I bought ended up contaminated, so I went down the rabbit hole and cleaned up what I find. That's the honestly, Etsy and Amazon are places you want to be careful buying from. I feel like you should know your vendor. I was about to say dealer. I'm glad you said vendor. Giving our landlord a reason to no. A car dealer is still a dealer. I'm not. I wasn't meaning like. Mr. McSpin's like, these are in syringes. They're gonna be. Are you selling drugs? That's fascinating. Thank you so much for. You're very welcome. I appreciate you guys asking. Absolutely. Well, guys, I am tired, so I'm getting off here. I wish you a good evening, and what? Yep, it's dinner. Yes, I am very hungry. I bid you adieu. Samantha's waving goodbye. Bye, Sam. We love you all. We appreciate y'all. Thank you for letting me farm you for content. And I don't know. I guess with anything, y'all, keep spawning culture.
Step into the lab, lights hum like a starship dock. Pine logs stacked like data banks in a cube block. I calibrate climates while the timeline bends. Writing fungal code loops only mycelium sends. I navigate ecosystems with instinctive precision. Every egg a plate a portal to a parallel vision. Menaships spin up like reactors at dawn. You want a culture revolution, then you better respond. We fracture the boundaries of the natural order. Make Reishi bloom sideways like a space-time border. I'm an Appalachian alchemist, wild ridge born, with a druid's intuition and a mind full of spores.
Keep spawning culture.
We're the network underfoot, the unseen sculpture.